Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. May I welcome you to the first edition of Summit FX, being organized in partnership with Ministry of Information and Broadcasting and supported by Government of Karnataka. I would also like to thank our partners who have helped us in putting together the program. The program is supported by Technicolor, Principal Partner Accenture, Dell, Epic Games, our Associate Partner Autodesk, Aptech, Tech Mahindra, ICE, our co-partner DNEG, Jetline, STPI, Indian Gaming Society is our institutional partner. We now begin our session 25A, the future of AVGC through the lens of experience. We are privileged to welcome the stalwarts of the industry who are here with us to share their thoughts on how this industry can shape up and take the future course. I would like to welcome Mr. Ashish Kulkarni, founder and CEO of Plenary Art Vision, Mr. A.K. Madhavan, founder and CEO Assemblage, Mr. Kirat Khurana, Indian filmmaker, storyteller, and film director, and founder director, Client India, Mr. Maurice Patel, Senior Director, Industry Strategy Marketing, M&E Autodesk, Mr. Marzin Tavaria, Creative Director and General Manager, DNEG, co-founder, Prime Focus, Mr. Munjal Shroff, Director and CEO, Graffiti, Mr. Nitish Mitesan, CEO and founder, Nazara Technologies, Mr. Rajiv Chilaka, founder and managing director, Green Gold Animation, Mr. Manvendra Shukul, CEO, Lakshya Digital. May I also welcome our moderator, Mr. Rajesh R. Turakia, founder and director, Framebox. May I request Mr. Rajesh to kindly moderate the session? Thank you.
Surprise to me. I was not aware that I was supposed to be the moderator, but okay, fine. If anybody else would like to take the honors, I have no issues. Please, Munjal, would you like to be the moderator?
You can go ahead, sir. We'll all chip in. Don't worry.
Okay, fine. So, right, it's a surprise to me. So I'm not even prepared for this. So we'll just take it from here.
Yeah.
So I need to have at least all the panelists' names. 1 minute. Yeah. So shall we start with Ashish Kulkarni, who is always very nicely verbose in this, Biren, Ashish, all these things. Ashish, would you like to start off the proceedings by telling us what you feel is the new thing that is coming up in these technologies, and what are the things that are going to be looked after by people who are in the industry right now? What is it? What do they look forward to? What would you look forward to in the industry right now? Ashish, can you hear me?
Yeah, hi.
Yeah, he's on.
Okay. Yeah.
Ashish, so what are your learnings from your long journey, and what would you like to pass on to the people of today who are going to start out today? What would you like to share about your experience in the industry of last 20 odd years?
First of all, hearty congratulations to CII and Biren setting up such a wonderful lineup for the last 4 days. I had an opportunity to come on a couple of sessions earlier, and today we have valedictory where Piyush Goyal is going to also come, our Honorable Minister. But there are so many learnings I can't tell you, and I said it yesterday that more than the learnings that I had coming into this industry in 1998, 99 onwards is actually having made such wonderful friends that I look forward to interacting every single day of my life. And I think that gift of this industry is something which I would cherish throughout my life. And I think more learning and more getting together and pushing the agenda moving forward for the industry has always been a big passion for me. And every time we realize that we are falling short of certain things, we wanted to course correct. And we put our best foot forward. We tried to convince many stakeholders, including the government stakeholders, and so much so with the state stakeholders as much. And finally came even the educational institution stakeholders. And I'm very happy today that at least the ecosystem of the education is presently looks in sync with what we require in our industry. And with the national education policy, where we had quite a bit of contribution, we look forward to implementation of this policy to really see that the kids look forward to making creative careers, performing art careers, design careers, and even the events and entertainment technology careers moving forward. And it's going to be much easier for them, henceforth to make. But I would like to, at this point, make one career that when Rajesh, you ask for what the new guys would look forward to. While we would definitely like to give our piece of wisdom to the new guys, but I don't see why the old guys are very strong even today, and they're going to continue for the next 20 years. So it's just midlife for us, man. And moving forward, I would only say, concentrate on your creative skills. The creative skills are the only things which are going to help you uh, create best of the content. Concentrate on research. Concentrate on the artistic skills and the performing art skills and the design skills, because these are at the core, and the foundation has to be really right. And I think while you are fascinated by the technology, technology is continuing to be only the enabler. So don't get too much fascinated by it. You will learn the technology and adapt to technology every now and then. Of course, it's important when you're choosing the platforms, when you're creating the final output of the project. But at the end of the day, always make sure that you are concentrated more on research and the creative aspect and the aesthetics of whatever you create in animation, gaming, visual effects, comics, AR or VR. At the same time, don't stop learning, because many youngsters I see come and they feel that what they feel is the only right thing to do. I think it's important that we need to adapt to learning from others, because any content creation in our space is about teamwork, and you have to work together with many, many people, adapt to these ideas. And I think if your story is very strong, if your story is very good, and if some of the platforms are wanting it to change just because of the need of putting something there which is not required in the story, you have all the right to resist. Please make sure that the right story comes out, because at the end of the day, it's going to be your name attached to that creation in the credits, and that's what the people are going to see in the future. So while telling the best story to the world, you need to ensure that you have taken care of all aspects. Many people I know that they keep worrying about who is my target audience, who is my target audience. I think as long as you concentrate on your story and you concentrate on your creatives and make sure that you're telling the best story, the audience are bound to come. And the every time you create new content, please do a pre-testing, because all the youngsters today, especially the millennials, have very different ideas. They have grown to be global citizens, and that's the key. In fact, every time I look at things, I don't pass a single day when I've not spoken or interacted with uh, kids between maybe 2 years to 14 years. If you continue your interactions with them and continue to talk to them, you would definitely know what is going to be required and how they think and how they look at things. And please make them as a part of your creative team, because they add so much of value. And at the end of the day, they see the world because they are the future. So in terms of education, they are definitely going to be having a much better opportunity than we had. In terms of making them a part of our stakeholding team is a critical thing for making our stories right and making sure that we create the right content, because they are going to be the target audience. And most importantly, while we concentrate on the kids genre, as an industry, we need to also see that we convince the GT, the general entertainment and the family entertainment genres to adapt to our stories of animation, because no sooner we do that, our market really expands, and we can tell many different kind of stories as we move forward. and the complete scope increases. More so, I would suggest also concentrate on your global reach through OTT, because some of these opportunities are very unique for us. And I think that's where we need to learn to do co-productions. We need to learn to create content with OTT, keeping in mind that those are the opportunities that are going to last for long, because the creative content economy that is getting generated all over the world, we have to be very sure that we place our best content in the creative content digital space. That's how we would have our reach and impact. And as we move forward, I think even India needs to be reckoned with the stylization, the storytelling, and the nuances of the cultural stories to be expanded to the globe. And all these things are going to come only when we are going to put best content on the block. And I feel that's where our guidance, our wisdom would come handy. But as I said, every single time we do this, we need to really ensure that we make the younger age groups as a part of our ecosystem right from the beginning. Because when you are narrating the story, when you're showing the character design, always make sure that they are with you, because what I have been learning is the insights that come from them, because they are exposed to much more content and the media than we were exposed to at one point in time, or in our childhood. So their exposure actually really helps. So don't discount it. Please count on them and take them along with us. Thanks, Rajesh.
Yeah, thank you, Ashish. Sorry, I don't have any preparation, so the introductions will be from my memory. So I'll next, you talked about the education system being in sync with, the needs of the day, and you want the younger age groups to come in. Also, the Indian content and Indian startups should be, coming up into that is for the world to consume. One person on our panel, Rajiv, the founder and the powerhouse behind Green Gold and Chota Bheem, is here, and I think he would be able to put some light on the powerhouse that India can become in the content development, because he has done something very, very remarkable with Chota Bheem. So Rajiv, could you please share your learnings from your journey, and suggest what people should do if they are starting up today?
Yeah, I think overall there are a couple of things we need to look backward and forward before we take off. I mean, I think yes, I think India is on a verge of a major content creation hub, and whether it is service or IP, I think we're going to see the best of content coming from India, and we all know that. But we do have a few challenges also. So looking backward, like the last 2 decades, whenever we had to hire staff, we did have to focus a lot on. Hey, someone, Munjal, can you mute your mic? I think, yeah. So,
Request
yeah,
all the participants to mute the mic, please.
yeah. So, what I've seen the last 2 decades is that companies had spent a lot of time training their own manpower. So that was one of the things. The second issue that most companies, startups faced was losing out their manpower to bigger companies. But today, with so much manpower being available, that problem has been taken care by institutions, educational academies, some people going who had the money going abroad and thing. So talent wise, experience wise, we all have it there. But still, we need to understand that tomorrow's future is in the grassroots levels today. And I think at school curriculum, still in the schools, we need to introduce drawings, and from the kindergarten itself encourage that art and culture in our right from that age, so that when they grow up we do have that natural culture of animation into it, which is still not there. It is people who have taken up as hobbies there. That is one of the important things. Second, many times companies have got stuck with technologies of the past, and I think the startups should not make that mistake. I mean, people have just sometimes the companies took a little bit too much time to change from the classical animation, which is had drawn on paper, to moving to Flash or Harmony. They took a little bit too much time. Or same way, a lot of companies in the beginning were stuck with Max and other softwares which were not really for this industry. So I think we have to choose our softwares, hardware, the fundamentals correctly, the right team in place. That comes a very fundamental thing. Then and today again, we are again on at the hub of a major change coming in the fields of CGI, especially for VFX and animation, 3D animation side of things. I think now we are seeing a splurge of game engines coming into this space. I mean, the likes of Unity or Unreal. And then it's not just Maya alone, the software that is powerful. So you also have Blender, which is fantastic. So again, which means that for startups, you don't need to really spend a lot of money procuring this software. Instead, you can just get this good hardware and just go with these software. Some of these, I think they just go. Blender is free. I think the Unreal and Unity also have a model that is pretty cheap to start with. I think startups should look at not spending their money on softwares and stuff, because definitely the first 2 years they're going to figure out a lot. They're going to be learning a lot of things about the future. Second, that now the market is no longer just India. The market is the world. There is the OTT platforms are catering to the world market. Then domestic Indian TV stations are also on having their own OTT platforms or on the verge of starting them, and then they are going global. So whatever content we are making, we need to have definitely local style and local sense and all, but storytelling wise, we can make it global, and that would mean that your acceptability in different countries. I mean, we still should be Indian at heart and stuff, but what I mean, the storytelling style that people would understand, if we are able to do with a few input from international artists, that's always great. But the other thing is, I think what is great about today compared to 15-20 years ago is that we all have these forums. We have bodies in states, AVGC bodies in each of the states who are contributing and guiding the juniors. And I think these startup companies, again, instead, rather than reinventing everything and learning by themselves, I think they should also reach out to people like who are on this panel and take their guidance, because I think that will be a shortcut to their success, in the sense they don't have to go through all the pains that we all had to go through. I think that would be good for them. And that's about it from my side. Rajesh ji, you're on mute.
Thank you very much, Rajiv, and thanks for your sharing your knowledge. And that point of collaborating with international artists to create international work, Indian content with an international flavor is a fantastic point. And I think we should all look at making global products rather than just making products that are only for India. That's how we will be able to take this thing forward. Okay, next, our veteran who doesn't want to be called a veteran, Mad Max or Madhavan. Please, could you share with us your experience? You've been around for more than 20 years, and I'm sure you have a lot to share.
Certainly, Rajesh, thank you very much. Personally, I've enjoyed this journey for over 2 decades, as you rightly said. I think all of us have enjoyed, and I presume that some of the team members who worked with me and some of my colleagues who worked with me also enjoyed the journey with me. But most importantly, I think I consider myself to be kind of lucky to be in this industry. Lucky also because if you look at today's pandemic kind of a situation, I think our industry is lucky because, unlike the live action space, animation as an industry, in terms of geometric progression as compared to live action. So I've been lucky to be in this space. Also lucky from a perspective that I had many firsts which I enjoyed. The very first television show that went out of India, the very first animated theatrical feature film that went out of India, the very first stereoscopic that went out of India, the very first international awards like Annie's and Emmys, the very first guy to be an entrepreneur at the age of 55, to set up a company. So this industry is so enjoyable, so encouraging, so fun that I'm lucky to be here. The first to do multiple movies or the new initiative that I started. First to be on Apple TV as we speak right now. We have a show running on Apple TV. So I think the interesting thing has been that over the last 2 decades, Rajesh, I think we have been pushed. The envelope has been pushed. If you look at the early movies, the first set of movies that, let's say, DreamWorks came out with, right? And the later movies, which DreamWorks came out with, I think the envelope got pushed, the quality got pushed. And I think our skill sets over the last 2 decades has been pretty exciting. I think our artists have grown when it comes to the acting abilities, when it comes to lighting, when it comes to effects on the CGI shows, on the CGI animated shows, the look and feel. And I'm proud to be a part of this space. We are competing, Rajesh, on the international services when it comes to international services. Of course, the domestic content, as we are all saying, that the content no more is domestic, it's got to be global, right? So, but I think we are, from an international quality perspective, I think we are competing with some of the best North American production studios based in, let's say, Canada, as a production service out of India. We are doing very exciting shows like Troll Hunters, or there are quite a few shows of ours. Many of our studios put together, whether it's on Netflix or Peacock, or I'm sure that very soon we'll have shows on Hulu. We already have a show on Apple and Amazon Prime and so on and so forth. I think when it comes to the quality levels, our skill sets, our boys have learned, hands-on. And the benchmark that we are pushing today is very international. Of course, there is so much to do, and we need to keep on learning and pushing ourselves. The good thing also is animation is probably the only content provider in the family genre. And I think we have grown. We have grown respectably. Can we do more? Can we push ourselves more? I'm sure we can. But I think as a country, as a team, as an organization, as a set of experienced panelists over here, each one of us have, I think, enjoyed the journey. It's fun. And also because we really, truly don't have a retirement age. We can still learn, we can still push ourselves, we can still have fun, we can still compete globally. And there is so much to do when it comes to, the content space. So I've enjoyed, the experiences have been fun. I've really enjoyed with all my teammates. I think the credit goes to whether it's the educational institutes who have trained up people, whether the commitment and the passion that the artists have had, the sincerity and the hardworking and the integrity, ability to learn and push ourselves in terms of the levels of quality. I think each one of us, on this panel are extremely proud of. And I think we are lucky to be in this space of animation. Thank you. You're on mute. You're on mute, Rajesh. You're on mute.
Thank you, sir.
I didn't hear Rajesh.
Thank you very much, Madhavan and young Madhavan. And the way you made it sound, many first with a very, very easy thing. I know how much difficulty you've gone through, we all have gone through during the early days, and what we have done to get to where we are today, or where the industry is today. So fantastic work done by you, and super, so many firsts that you have done. And the growth of the artists, yes, that's something that I can definitely vouch for. When I started off training students, we had students who would just have basic knowledge. Today's student output is almost better than the output they used to be in 2000s by the animators, professional animators themselves. So yes, the growth of the artists has been great, and that is going to be an added benefit to us. the main other point that you mentioned, that animation is now for all ages. Animation content, consumption is for all ages, not only cartoons for kids and things like that. And that is also made that market very, very viable and interesting for us. So with that, thanks, Madhavan. I will like to go to Marzin. He is, of course, founder of Prime Focus and one of the biggest post-production houses in the world, leading that, and fantastic work done by you guys in the international field. Would you like to share your career path and what difficulties you went through, and how what you look at the industry and what you suggest to the newcomers today?
So yeah, I definitely echo Max's views that it's been a long journey. It's nice to look back. Yes, the panel is a little, termed as the stalwarts, but also, there is a number of years. So sometimes you're proud of the number of years. Sometimes you want to hide behind the number of years. But yeah, it's been a good journey. It's 25 years. The good part was that through the journey, I think we never really looked at it as how far we were from our goals, because we were achieving goals constantly. So that's a good thing when you're in an industry which, I tell my children that it's very rarely that you get to have a hobby that is also a career. And it's a risky one. It's a risky decision to make. And yes, you're lucky when you just stumble upon it. That's how I got into it. I just stumbled upon it. I had no idea what I was getting into. But through the years, we've seen the industry change from post-production changing, technology coming in such a way where we were lucky to be at the cusp of it. And it's changed so dramatically from where we were. And one of the things that the aspiration was always looking back while watching all the big movies of, the Star Wars and everything of the older ones, it was always an aspiration to be a part of that. And while we were obviously building upon the Bollywood side of visual effects, and it's nice to be at a point where I'm happy to give that opportunity to my boys and girls or people in India, the opportunity to work on these movies directly. And you have Avengers and Chris Nolan, Tenet happening right here in India. And that's a big achievement for our people, and that clearly shows what happens in animation, what happens everywhere, the die-hard attitude and the push to make things happen. That I think somewhere in our DNA as Indians, we have that to we've always got one hand tied behind our backs with some or the other handicap, but yet we push across, and that's the die-hard passion that we see in the people of getting and going and doing it out there. Because I think, yes, as I've gone through, I know that a lot of people go through, it's always the hands-on training and hands-on actual experience that really matters, especially in India. The students that come out are definitely getting better and better every year, and that is I think one of the key elements for our future also, to build upon that. Because today they have the exposure and the availability of everything. You don't have to travel outside the country to actually experience that. It's right here in India. The opportunity to work on Hollywood blockbusters, or as a matter of fact, the Bollywood industry and visual effects is changing so dramatically. Not only Bollywood, all across India, all the different regional films also incorporating visual effects, not just as one more element, but very much a part of the filmmaking process. And that bringing that into India and being able to increase the group, the pool, is one of our key focuses. We've been training our own people, but as we are training, we are also learning so much more, because the global industry is ahead. We are fast catching up, but there's lots for us to do. This time, I think luckily for the industry as visual effects, the whole new chapter opening up as OTT has given us a new sort of new shot in the arm. but at the same time, sometimes you have some hardships that you get into, like the pandemic has actually given us a whole new opportunity, because in this period OTT has gained so much more that it would have taken a long time to actually get into, to catch up this way. And where technology comes in now, we are at a very, it's a strange situation where OTT is considered TV, but it's not TV anymore. The shows on OTT that we work on are bigger than some of the other projects that we work on, which means that that's even more effort and focus is required, more technology is required. And the unique thing is, earlier we had either you were working for the small screen or the mobile screens, or you were working for IMAX in all its glory. But now you've got such a huge blend that some of our projects, which are for the small screen, where consumption is broken up between your home TVs to your mobile devices, but we work on 4K for those. And on the big screen, we work on 2K. So it's quite a strange situation, but I think it's all coming together. Gaming is picking up, animation is picking up. So I think it's all on a very positive path. Uh, Lots of new changes coming on board with virtual production coming in a big way, because again, it's necessity is the mother of invention, and uh, it's been around for a long time, but it's never been pushed and used as much to the degree that it is. And where it is going from here, it's going to pick up in a big way, because that's going to become a very much a part of regular filmmaking, virtual production, and a lot of projects have already kicked off. Some of our projects that were uh, had slowed down because of these past few months have now come on board and are looking at virtual production as a way ahead. And yeah, it's fun, and it's exciting to see where the next goal is and what new challenges come our way. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for your words. I uh, agree with you that you stumbled, but we all kind of stumbled into this business because when we started, it was like a very very sunrise kind of industry. We all came from some different backgrounds, maybe not cricket, but otherwise all of us came from different backgrounds and then started this business. And we have had a great struggle. Yes, we have gone through these things. I agree with you that the student quality has increased because I think basics and people using computers, people using the media has become much more at a younger age. So when the students come even to our institutes, we find them at a much higher quality than they were earlier. So yes, that is a good thing that is happening, and we can train them to a better level. So basically, these are the things that I think are going to be very very positive for us. And I like this positive attitude during COVID that your things are improving, good things are happening. It's great to hear that. So thanks again, Mazin. Now I'll go to Munjal. Munjal is my founder and director of Graffiti, one of the first companies to do 2D animation with the great Ram Mohan. And they've also migrated to 3D. So they have a different journey. So Munjal, would you like to talk about your journey, please?
Sure. Thank you. So I think it's been a fascinating journey, and it's been a story of growth. And reflecting back, when we started out, there was a paucity of talents. I think our audience bases were small. We had limited avenues of distribution and talent. I think all of these parameters, which were constraints in the industry, they all have changed today. I think in terms of distribution, if you look at it, I think new avenues have opened up. I think OTT obviously has changed the game. We have a lot more broadcasters than back then. It started with Cartoon Network, but today we have about 10, 12 channels coming up, more regional channels coming up, so I think there's more avenue to essentially, distribute your content. That's one. I think the other remarkable aspect is the talent pool. I think that's grown phenomenally. When I started my career, the one man and one institution to learn was Mr. Ram Mohan, the father of Indian animation. And I was very fortunate to work very, very closely with him, and under him, and got groomed under him, and I think that obviously helped, and I think today, I think the current pool of talent coming in the industry, I think, is actually, I would say, blessed, because there are so many experienced players in the, I mean, this panel here itself. I mean, this phenomenal experience today on this panel. And I would only urge all of us that we should go in and talk to students, inspire them, help them, mentor them in many ways. And I know most of us are doing that, but I think there's need to do more of that. I think the other thing, one of the things that always fascinated me about our space was the use of technology. And I still remember when I started my career, and there was an ad for a render box, and which said, "Work hard, render fast, retire young." It still kind of sticks with me, because particularly when you're talking about CGI or high-end visual effects, one of your biggest challenges is rendering. And I think if you look at, the game has dramatically changed today, and I think, again, if I were to just kind of, as a word of advice for the younger talent or even the younger studios coming up, is that don't be over dependent on a particular technology. Always be nimble. When we started out, I think the early 90s and early, there was a company called Silicon Graphics. I mean, it was the most coveted machine and platform. Today, I think most people don't even know about it. And I think companies who heavily invested in that eventually suffered, because those machines were super expensive. So I think that from a technology standpoint of view, that it's become a level playing field. Again, I think the other fascinating, which even Rajiv touched on, is Blender. I think software is open source. I think is becoming really, really big. I think it's great to see that, thanks to the internet, and availability of resources and also information and knowledge sharing, it's become quite easy today to see what are the best practices, to reach out to people and learn from these best practices. So I think that, again, is a very, very critical factor here. That access to technology, access to talent, access to experience. I think all these three today are really, really working in our favor. And I think that is something that the current pool of young creators need to basically utilize well. And I'm always open to work and collaborate with younger talent, because I think that's what keeps us young, that's what keeps us relevant. And for me, like even Ashish said that the younger talent needs to come in, and I think we need to embrace their ideas. I think what we need to remember is that, I think all of us, when we started out, someone senior than us, someone more experienced than us, gave us that opportunity. I still remember, first month on getting into the studio and working, I was asked to do a client presentation. I think that's a huge opportunity. But I think it's that show of confidence, and I think when your peers or your seniors tell you it's okay to fail, you're there. If you succeed, success is yours. If you fail, we are there to back you up. I think giving that confidence to your team, you know, is really, really phenomenal. I think at Graffiti, we've been very lucky to have a team which has been with us, consistently for over 20 years. And I think it's been one of our biggest strengths, that people have stayed with us, and people have helped the studio grow. The other thing, obviously, is if you look at content genres, I think that is also, I think slowly we will start seeing changes, new genres emerging. Yet we're still, even today, I think because of broadcast limitations, I think predominantly, which is more ratings driven, we are still programming for the 4 to 8. But I think with the OTT coming in, the MCNs coming in, and new distribution avenues coming up, I think we will see opportunities for producing genres for all ages. And I think it's no longer about who is your audience, but I think it's about what is the content that you're creating. If you create great content for the right audience, I think the distribution opportunity is there for you to grab. Because as more and more platforms come up, distribution avenues come up, they will have to start carving out a niche for themselves. They will have to start defining their audience and reaching out to that audience and talking to that audience. So which means that you will find that there is more opportunity to produce the kind of content you want to content, something that you are passionate about. So I think one of the reasons that is common on this panel today is it's our passion. I think none of us would have survived in this business if we were not passionate about it. against all odds, whether it was basically, lack of funding, lack of resources, lack of tech, a lot of challenges we had in the early days, But I think together today we've reached a point where we can say that yes, we have a very, very strong and robust industry. I think the foundation is very robust and we can only grow from here. And I think my last point is on the business models. I think we need to see some evolution in business models. I think today a lot of the studios on this panel, we all have our different strengths, and I think it's time for us to collaborate with one another. One of the things that I would also like to see is more active collaboration between producers and broadcasters. Unfortunately, we are at a point where there seems to be a tussle on the rights issue, but I think I think it will evolve. I think broadcasters will also see the maturity in the thought that it's about sharing rights and it's about ensuring that we both grow together. I mean, this is the model that has worked very, very well, in the more evolved markets where broadcasters and producers come together as co-producers. Obviously they secure their home market, but then they look for distribution avenues on the international platform. And I think that is something that will allow us to do more, allow us to also increase the revenue potential. So I think some work, I think, on that space needs to be done as to how we can actually, open up the markets for all of us and how we can collaborate otherwise, I think, very, very excited about the future. I think one of the things that really excites me is that every day you wake up, you are looking at something new and exciting happening. And I think that passion and that drive, I'm very lucky to say that I still have that. And I've been very fortunate to that when we used to interact with Mr. Ram Mohan, he recently passed away, but even at 80, he was as passionate as I met him, 25 years back. So, and I think if someone at the age of 80 can be that passionate, I think that's the wonder of our industry, that no matter what your age, I think you will always find something exciting, and that excitement will fuel your passion. Thanks, Rajesh.
I agree with you about passion totally. I feel that's one of the things that we tell the student, that passion and dedication is something that you need in constant learning. That is definitely a point well taken. Your point about tech being accessible and all this, which yes, we had a lot of problems, and today the newcomers have a lot of access to open source software and also to tech, which is very, very reasonably costed. I mean, I remember seats costing 20 and 40 lakhs each, and today the seats have come down to 2 and 5 lakhs. So definitely there is a lot of access to all kinds of tech and software for the youngsters who are coming in. So yes, I think this is a time where the youngsters can take a great advantage, and we have struggled through it, but today the establishment of this industry is quite robust, as you say. Thank you very much. Now I'll come to Kirit. Last but not the least, Kirit, my good friend from Climb Media. He is also one of the veterans, and his father, Bimchen, was of course the person who did the first media. So Kirit, you like to just share your journey, please.
Okay, so I guess I'm the only one who is a product of nepotism over here, because I am obviously I was wondering why I'm here in the first place, because all of you are almost self-made individuals and wonderful individuals who have done some amazing work in your space. And I had the advantage of actually coming from a family that my father was an Indian animation pioneer. But the other thing about dad was also just like me, was that he was not entirely in animation. He was just committed to storytelling. So I guess even over the years, my life also has moved in various directions where I'm looking at live action also as a possibility. I'm doing documentaries, I'm doing other things as well, apart from animation. There was a time, of course, I was running an animation studio, and but now, of course, I'm outsourcing the work and I focus more on the storytelling. I think we had some wonderful sharing over here from Ashish, from Rajiv, from Munjal, about content and about storytelling, and how storytelling is so important to actually get your ideas across. And that is something that I feel is something that is missing. Although I feel that there is a big opportunity for animation and basically overall in the OTT platform, because we're living in a time that is a golden era for active content creation. So many OTT platforms and devouring so much of content, and they're constantly hungry. Somehow I'm hoping that the early successes that Mad Max and Rajiv have opened up for animation for India in these OTT platforms will capitalize and will open up opportunities for many more people, many more storytellers. I think the great opportunity now is also in terms of the fact that a lot of these OTT platforms are not just looking for children's content, but they're also looking at adult animation, animation for adults as well. And that's one area that also excites me as well, to be honest. But because so much of cost and development, product development cost is involved in the beginning, and there's a lot of research involved in storytelling and making the Bible, coming up to the Bible stage. That is a bit of a dampener, and I just hope that we build a better ecosystem to actually start, creating ideas, incubating ideas that these channels can actually, these OTT platforms can actually, take on. And I think it's a great opportunity for India right now because they are looking for content, and I am being contacted as well. And of course, Rajiv is succeeding big time, and Mad Max is succeeding also to a large extent. From an Indian storytelling perspective, I think we need a lot more Green Golds, and we need a lot more Mayas, and we need a lot more other studios for to actually justify the kind of content that these OTT platforms need. So again, underscoring the importance of storytelling. That is an area I think that if we somehow embed that, apart from just pure skills, I think we have a lot of skills now in animation. Students are coming out very well. I've been connected with the education industry also through my Vice venture and with my association with MAC, and then later on Paintbox. But I feel that if we are able to embed the aspect of storytelling, of structured storytelling, and what makes a great idea tick, and what is an evergreen, how do you create evergreen IPs? And we spawn it off as a 1 year or 2 year course, which is exclusively just for storytellers. I think that will go a long way in terms of establishing the animation industry. Right, I right now feel that a lot of the writers are from the live action domain, and they are not really necessarily sensitized to animation storytelling and how different it can be. There is a lack of understanding of humor as well, lack of understanding of irony as well, lack of understanding of great stories as well. So these are aspects I feel that this is a big area or a gap that I've always felt that needs to be filled up, which is not just modelers, texturing artists, animators, storyboard artists, not just that, but storytellers by themselves, because they are at the top of the pyramid. If you don't have a great story ready, the others really don't get employment. So from the top of the pyramid, we look at those key individuals who can put great stories together, who have a literature background, who have read stories, have read novels, have seen a lot of content, and already have a great penchant of writing or narrating stories. And subsequently, you will have a trickle down effect, because that many more pitches can happen to these various OTT platforms. And I think we will see a really flowering and blossoming of the Indian animation industry, which is what we expected the television space to do, but it really didn't happen to the extent that it needed to happen. But I feel with the OTT platforms, I think the opportunity is clear and present. So I think best of luck to all of us, and I think I would like to commend the great work and service that a lot of the individuals in this panel are doing. I think there's some phenomenal work happening here between all of us over here, and it's great. It's great to be part of it.
Thanks, Kiran. Thanks. As usual, you are always the storytelling part, and I think that is the most important part. Story is the essence of the whole thing, and of course, writing for animation is something that is very, very important. It is different from writing for live action, so definitely point well taken. Thanks very much for sharing your experience. Now, we have about half an hour more, so what I'll do is I'll merge a couple of questions and maybe take them one by one. So what were the next question is going to be to all the panelists. What were the biggest difficulties that you overcame, and what would you suggest to the next generation to be prepared for these and not face, have to face them? And also, what would you do differently if you started out today, so that the newcomer knows what he's doing today? What would you do differently if you started out today? And what is the new potential areas that you would look at, like you mentioned, OTT and others? There may be a little bit of overlap, but I guess we'll have to work with that. Would you prepare for a different target segment or a different business model, or engage teams and talent differently? So these are the questions. I guess we will start with Max. Could you please start with it? What was the biggest difficulty you overcame, etc.?
Sure. I think we've all faced different kinds of challenges. I mean, you cannot really kind of single out, but the most top of mind that comes to me is capital, lack of capital, or lack of capital in terms of for research and development. Be it, today we are being pushed because of the COVID situations. We really kind of work smartly on the technology part and the remote part, and work from home. But in the earlier days, for example, we all spoke about story, right? Now, I don't think many of us had the opportunity of engaging or investing into a writer's room, where there would be writers coming and thinking and kind of spoiling so capital has been, as far as I'm concerned, the biggest challenge, and that kind of constrains you from. But having said that, I think we have progressed quite a bit. We have done, we can pat ourselves on the back, but that would have helped us to kind of position ourselves in the true content space. So we are predominantly even still seen today as a work for hire studio or a production services house. We do not have, we can aspire for, whether it's preschool content that can go globally, or we can aspire for adult content or a family genre. But I think we are still lacking, and I would singularly point as the funding, the support. It could be financial institutions, it could be debt, it could be equity, it could be we haven't invested, so that was my biggest thing, as far as there are quite a lot of them, and I'm sure the rest of them will kind of come in and pitch in their bits.
What would you suggest to the newcomers to avoid this problems, and would you do things differently if you were doing it today?
Sure. I mean, I would kind of. It all depends on the appetite, right? It all depends on the passion. It all depends on the hunger. If the artist can take half the salaries, the other half salaries can go into, the investment into the writer's room. But that's not going to happen. But I would really want the artists to be stakeholders, not just come there from a job perspective or kind of engaging themselves in a 9 to 5 or a 9 to 12 or whatever the kind of commitments they do. They're very committed guys, they're very passionate guys, but there's no skin in the game. There's no ownership, right? So it's always been, this is my output and this is what it is. Some of us spoke earlier that, the industry went through a lot of coaching, the industry, I mean, it still goes through. If you look at Canada right now, there's still a lot of coaching happening. If you ask me what the youngsters should get into, youngsters should get into what is called as an investment mode, apart from a learning mode. So they learn, but they also invest. It's asking too much, but that's what I would suggest.
Thanks a lot. Ashish, would you like to take that point forward, please?
I think in terms of challenges, we had quite too many. In fact, I became a forced entrepreneur in 2005, and I think access to private equity at that point in time was still a challenge. I think it's kind of opened up a little bit more right now, but I think for our industry, an openness to invest is still a little bit of an issue. So I think overall, as Madhavan said, that access to capital needs to improve into our space, and that was one of the biggest challenges we faced. The second challenge, I would say, and in fact, Rajiv will agree with me more, is the whole positioning of animation feature film releases has been pretty difficult to do. In fact, we are a very live action dominated country, and it's the space for the other genres, and especially animation when it came to the distribution patterns. I think what I believe is the distribution system has to open up and be more receptive to look at things. Even the corporates who came into the entertainment had to be more, innovative in terms of accepting new genres and taking it forward. And the third challenge that we faced in our country was an absence of a public broadcasting channel. And I think, a huge support to most of the industries coming from public broadcasting space, say BBC or PBS or, Canadian Network or any of these, actually helped animation industry in a very big way. And I think in the absence of a public broadcaster, a parallel ecosystem just didn't exist and still doesn't exist. And I think all the efforts that Munjal and we have put in to push the agenda for creation of DD Kids, we only hope that it would happen so that we have a parallel ecosystem and we are able to safeguard certain rights with the producers, because without the rights, the producers are doing things half-heartedly because they know that the shows are not going to be with them. At the same time, your revenues go completely half, and you have a potential of exploiting the content within the same territory in the same time frame with the pay TV and the public broadcaster. One side is completely missing. So I think that needs to really come in. Another thing is what to be missed in the last 2 decades is the uh, formation and the complete mechanism of co-production going officially. We did unofficial co-productions, but official co-productions needed to be pushed, and that mechanism need to happen. And I think in the last 5 years, a lot of work has happened, and I think the mechanism of doing the co-productions, whether it's animation or gaming, it's going to see the light of the day in this country. And I think that's something which is very critical. And lastly, probably the co-production funds. In fact, we need to also look at a certain fund of funds or co-production funds being set up to ensure that this industry is supported at the product level. At the private equity at the company level is fine, but even the project funding needs to be available so that the creative entrepreneurs can actually take a bigger leap and see things forward. For your second question, I would say, if I think did things differently, which I'm doing with my two new startups, Screen New Creations Private Limited and Plenary Art Vision Private Limited. I've consciously kept my company fully not centered around animation. Although 70% of the work we do is all animation, but we invest a lot in writing and creating original IPs, and then partner with some of the existing studios to take it forward. Because we want to control, the creative process and make sure that we are concentrating in creating new ideas, researching well, and creating those ideas and getting it ready till the stage where we can actually get it produced. So we have not gone overboard with whole capital intense investments. We would like to utilize that is already existing in this country. So that's the model that we went with, and we always now believe that we can. Most of my creative directors and animation directors also are not only writing but also producing and directing live action shows. So we have done a few Bengali films. We are doing a few Marathi films. We have done 25 films for Maharashtra tourism. And I think that's something which is a combination of animation, visual effects, and animation, and live action is something which is the new mantra that we have. Uh, Having said that, our lifeline is still animation. So we didn't mind taking few other things for keeping the survival instincts, going, but also having fun with creating shorter formats and continue to be, actively coming up with certain things, because animation productions are very long drawn. And I think for the new generation, I would only say, just be open to all ideas. Don't close your minds. If you're thinking of a future, if you have an opportunity to go to OTT, if something needs to change, please do change it. In fact, it works both ways, and I think that's where I would say invest as and when required, but invest more in products and more in research and more in creating ideas.
Yeah, Ashish, change seems to be your mantra, so very good. And I will suggest there was one question that you haven't answered. How can they be prepared? Both of you talked about money being short or money not being available. How can the newcomer be prepared for that, or what should he do to, avoid that pitfalls of being lack of capital to do his work?
Oh well, I would say that invest where it is definitely required to be invested, or invest in creating the stories, creating the designs, and keep the rest of the money. Don't let it go thin. And once you start pitching, just make sure that you have enough money to start your production. Otherwise, if you start it without having the complete production money, then it's going to be a challenge for you. So be cautious of doing that. That's the key.
Thanks a lot, Ashish. Now, Rajiv, I think you've also struggled a lot to get your product where it is today, and we would really like to know what were the difficulties you faced. What would you suggest to the newcomers to avoid those difficulties? Mic is off, I think. You're on mute. You're on mute, Rajiv.
Yeah, thanks. So, yeah, of course, we did face a lot of challenges, and we also made a lot of mistakes. And I think I definitely don't want newcomers to make those mistakes. So when we started out, example, we were a company that did everything in the sense we were doing animation, we were doing VFX, we were doing 3D animation as well as 2D animation. Then we were shooting corporate films. Then we were designing website, we were designing logos. So we had like 8 or 10 people to start with, and we were doing everything under the sun. And 2 3 years actually we didn't even move forward much. We didn't make any progress. And then I think I was looking for to raise some money and stuff, and then I met a lot of wise people, and one of them advised me, I think, Rajiv, what your biggest mistake you're doing is that you're focusing on too many things. I think in your website and all, I've seen you're doing 20 things. I think just focus on one or two things, and that would be a major thing. I tried to justify him saying, no, we need this money to survive, pay salaries. He said that, if you think that way, it will never ever change. So what we did was, over the next 1 2 months, I realized what he said was right, and I just shut down our 3D division and just focused on 2D. And that's when we produced our Vikram Betal, and then Krishna, and then Chota Bheem. Until 2015, in fact, we didn't try to jump the gun and trying to do everything under the sun. I mean, we were getting a lot of competition from other studios. We realized that if we don't catch up, we will be lost. But we wanted to make sure that we have crossed this hurdle before we this thing. And of course, I don't think we are. I mean, many times we need to realize that, especially the newcomers, that they should not be in the rat race, and everybody is unique. They need to think out of the box. And the moment you're thinking like a competition, that's when your downfall starts. I mean, in fact, we should utilize other studios' experience and understand them, their difficulties, and not repeat them. So I think for example, once we are focused only on 2D, we were able to build a very very good team. And then the same base has been utilized to start our 3D or CGI division in 2015. And 4 years from that day, we were able to make a Netflix original. So that means basically, so it's basically we already have the experience, and you can definitely, you don't need 20 years to do something. You can do something quicker. So today we realize, okay, now, so I realize that our passion is there for all these things, CGI animation or 2D or even VFX or hybrid kind of films. Now, basically, now I have personally set a target that I think we should get into producing hybrid films. I realized, like Ashish ji was talking about films in India, animation films. We tried. I was very stubborn and tried doing this 6 times, and 6 times I failed. I said, okay, I kind of give up now, and I'm going to give a shot at hybrid films. I think with Kirit has already laid a way back. I think with a film, I don't remember the name, but Ajay Devgan, he did this hybrid film, and I really loved the film, but there were not many made after that. So now I think my focus is to do something like that. We're looking now to create VFX based films also. Now coming back to the challenges, I think challenges wise, I think there are one too many challenges that we have faced. In fact, example one, overnight we lost our entire team to a competitor company, and in between a live project. So at that time we had 16 people. The 16 people walked out of the company next day morning because they got 3 times the salary from our competitive company, and they left, walked out. So I was luckily at that time hands-on. I knew everything where was, and then we recruited students, and it took us, the quality suffered, but we were able to keep our commitments and stuff. And I mean, from till that time, I think I was very attached to the people in the studio. I used to be very emotional, and then that lesson taught me that it's important you always have a backup plan. You always, I mean, whatever you're doing, you need to have a backup plan. Like, what if this doesn't happen? We cannot assume that everything will go as per my plan. So that's something I learned that day. And then a few years later, I think the biggest hurdle for me was when we built our brand new office in Begumpet. I think some of you have visited that office. After making the entire office, and we were going to inaugurate on 1st of April, and then 26th March, this whole office was completely burned out because of some short circuit at midnight on a Saturday night, and the whole office, so about 5 floors, the fire started on the first floor. So the first, second, third completely burned out. Fourth was partially burned. Luckily, we didn't have our computers moved in yet, but everything, the interiors, the tables, the cables, the AC, everything was burned out. First of all, we didn't have money to do the office once, and then we had to basically figure out how to do it twice. And that was something that I really felt like, this is it, I'm going to stop here. But what's the blessing in disguise was I mean, what was basically the saving for me was 10 days later, after the fire, Chota Beam went on air, which is 6th of April. And this was in 2008. And suddenly, within 2 weeks, I get a call from Turner that after the ratings came, this show is a hit. Can you make 39 more episodes for us? And then I told them my situation. I mean, that time it was in the news, it was in the papers that our studio was burnt down and stuff. And then Turner, then I told them I cannot make it because I don't have the money at all. I'm completely thing. And then they gave me till that time uh, they did not see the hit. So, but then they helped me out. They said, "Don't worry, we'll back you up," and they backed us up. They paid advances, etc., etc. And then I went and talked to the vendors to redo the interiors and stuff like that, and they were kind enough to redo everything and wait to take the monies 3 months more. And I think that was the biggest challenge point for me. And then, of course, there, even today, monetary wise, capital wise, I mean, every day, every month, there is some battle or the other because some payment won't show up. I mean, COVID was another challenge we all had. I mean, we didn't expect it. But I think in terms of capital, the newcomers, What is great about today is there's something called work from home, so they can reach out. I mean, they don't really now need to invest in infrastructure of office or in infrastructure of hardware or software, because all these artists have now their own systems at home and softwares and stuff. If they are a smart product, if they hire one smart production guy, I think they can execute projects without having any capital investment or long-term commitment. So I think that's something new that we all must think, even existing companies, because we shouldn't be sometimes keeping too many people on our payrolls, especially when there is no projects in sight. I think that's about it from me.
Thank you, Rajiv. That is a great idea about avoiding bench time for your animators and work from home, and maybe having a TD who takes care of putting the product together from the people who have giving it to you from home. So yes, that's fantastic idea, and I'm sure somebody will gain from that one. Merzin, I think you're one of the guys who hasn't had that much problem with money, so you can talk about other problems maybe.
Well,
So,
who doesn't have a problem with money?
but not that much. That's
Yeah, well, we don't know. We need a different kind of funding because the technology requirement in visual effects is huge. And especially for us, we've been innovating in this space because the kind of things that were available in the industry, it was running off just one small box, but that's not good enough when you're trying to do visual effects. And in the early days, when it was advertising, we would be shown international commercials and be expected to deliver that with small boxes, and that's not clearly possible. And yes, you needed the silicon graphics systems and you needed those big ass render farms, which were all new for us. So yes, of course, funding is always a problem. Uh, but I mean, challenges were all different at that time. Today's challenges are completely different. So what would the new guys do differently today? Learning from the past, I think there's always benefit in looking backwards, but I think the current situation is completely different from what it was. Uh, there's a lot more awareness of the industry, of the kind of work. I mean, those early days, if I would talk to anyone about what I do, they would never get it. And today also people don't get it. At least today you have a ready reference of pointing towards superhero film or Avengers or something like that, and at least people, the common person, relates to it. They still refuse to call it visual effects, so I have to resort to calling it special effects, and people say, oh, okay, that makes sense. But from being in the background, visual effects, to today being in the foreground, I think the challenge and the whole dynamics have changed so much. Um, you know, when our first system, we had a 9 GB system, which was like a big tower, and the only way you could understand that the system is working is if you put your ear to it and know that all nine disks are spinning or not. And today you are walking around with more than 64 GB on just one small device. So things are completely different. The risk of all of that is what I would be more worried about, because I touched upon the part that we're making content, or we're making the same product for a small screen as well as a big screen, and the amount of effort that goes into doing a big screen extravaganza, every small detail, when you zoom in IMAX film and you take every quadrant of your screen, zoom it in, and that's how a supervisor assesses it and gives back notes of, okay, there's one little flicker on frame number so and so. It's never going to be seen on the small screen. So you got away with a lot when you did only for the small screen, but today you're making it across the things. So you're applying the same things for the small screen as well as big, which means from a investment point of view, from an experience point of view, you need those level of artists to be able to do the same content. And one of the good things of those 9 GB drives and everything was we learned a lot of patience at that time. You couldn't have anything rendered in just an hour. A small thing would take 26 hours to render, and you just sat in front of the screen waiting for that After Effects peculiar tring to happen, and you would get it all. But in the new generation, the people that are coming on board, instant gratification is the buzzword. Focus is very limited. Attention span is so limited. Those are all the challenges that the people today will face, because the hurdles will come in different forms. Uh, Money and all that is all separate, but just that when you're dealing with your career growth and everything today, it's a lot better, but the animal will change. The challenges will change. Uh, what we were unique in being able to do on our workstations with the silicon graphics and everything, today a small kid is able to do on his iPhone, but it's not the same quality. And sometimes that is the misunderstanding, that if you can do it on that, then what's the big deal of doing it on the big screen? But when you get to work on the big screen, it hits them with a little bit of like what happened here, and they realize that one small 5-second shot could land up taking 6 months to do and have almost 200 people working on it. Those reality checks sometimes take a little longer time for people to understand and know that this is not a 9 to 5 job. I think that is the biggest challenge that the people will face today, because the wrong assumption that we can finish it in 9 to 5. It can't. It's not about India. It's not about anywhere. All over the world, it's a passion and a hard industry. It's exciting because when you see that on the big screen, that's your moment. But it's a journey, and that's one of the questions that I would throw out there. That you need the patience, passion, and perseverance. Without that, not going to happen.
Great. Thanks a lot, Marzin. Thank you for your words of wisdom. I know you have set up one of the biggest post-production studios with all that kind of attitude. So it's something that is going to be good for the newcomers to learn from you. Munjal, now can we rush to you, because we have few minutes left, 10 minutes left. So I'd like you to share your experience, please.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Munjal.
Yeah. Hi, Rajesh. Thank you so much. I think one of the key aspects, looking back is, essentially, I would say growing or looking at the studio, I think one of the first things that did was exposure. When we look at producing content, and particularly when we are looking at producing content for the global market, and I still remember the very first Annecy MIFA market that we went to, and we were basically pitching our shows. And that's when we realized that, I think we really have a lot of catching up to do. And I'm talking, this was probably in 1997. And I think that's when it hit me that the whole point of content, and how the universality of content, which is, yes, you can still have your own story, you're telling an Indian story, but it still needs to appeal to a wider audience. And that's where I think, one of the first things that we did was to collaborate with different creators across the world. And I think that helped us a fair amount, in terms of understanding the global market, understanding global audiences, and then how to position your product as for that. I'm very happy to share that we've just been greenlit for a show which is meant for a global audience, and it's been a journey. I think it took us 7 years to break in, on that particular show, and because we wanted it to be for a global market. So I think what I would like to say is that sometimes, that journey or the time it takes to sell something, can be that long. And again, at every stage, you need to look at, objectively being able to look back at your content and saying, clients will come back, broadcasters, OTT platforms, they will also have a point of view. So you need to be open about, and take things on board, At the same time, I think it's about striking that balance, that what people are telling you is that, is it something that is going to improve your product, or is it going to something which is going to fundamentally alter the DNA of what you're trying to do? So I think, and a lot of this also comes with exposure. The more you see when you look at shows being produced, different shows, and see how they've been produced, I think that again is definitely something that will help young creators. And I would say that work with experienced people. I think the role of a producer is still not well understood. There is a director of the show and there is a producer of the show, and I think they both have very distinct roles. And I think moving forward, I think that we need very, very experienced producers, who can work with young talent, young directors, and guide them, and temper that creativity. Sometimes overindulgence is always a problem, and I think particularly in our field, we've been guilty of that. I've been guilty of that, and that's something that we follow today in our studio, that if I'm directing, I will not produce, and if someone else is directing, then I will be, or somebody else in the studio will be a producer. I think the other challenge that today I think that the industry faces is the challenge of IP ownership, and I think that's something that I would probably say that collectively we all need to think about and see how we can address that, because many times IPs get locked up, and they never get monetized beyond shores of India, because be it broadcasters, be it platforms, their core revenue is coming from the Indian subcontinent. In a way, it kills the potential, it kills the revenue potential, and sometimes these companies don't even have the wherewithal or the mandate to even go out and distribute their shows internationally. But the IP gets locked up. So I think that level of maturity in the industry that let's share resources, let's share revenues, and grow the market, grow the revenue potential of the product. I think those are the two things that I would kind of say as my closing comments. Thanks, Rajesh.
Thanks much. Kate, would you like to talk about your difficulties and how you overcame them, and what would you like to suggest to the newcomers?
Well, I think yes, I think like everyone said, we all have faced a lot of difficulties. I think I mean honestly, poaching talent, like Rajiv has spoken about, a lot of other people have spoken about also, that's something that we faced dramatically. I mean, there was a point of time where people were paid to come and get a job at graffiti just to learn at graffiti. Yeah. So but we learned. So I think we were upset about that, and I think at that point we realized that, hey, there is a potential here, and we then decided to run an animation school for a certain amount of time to groom talent. So I think sometimes opportunities like this come, and you say that, okay, maybe you need to look at it, and there's a message there, and one should look at that aspect of it. And we are again looking at now, reviving that whole training initiative, because for us, training was always about grooming talent, for the industry, for the whole industry. And I think the other obviously challenge is always talent. To a large degree, I think it is getting addressed, but I would still say that there's a lot more work to be done at the top end of the talent. When I say that, I think we have numbers at the bottom of the pyramid, but at the top of the pyramid, experienced producers, experienced executive producers, head writers. I think the whole concept of a writing team is still not well understood on a show. How do you manage it? And I think I've been very fortunate to work with people internationally and understand how they function. And I think that's again something that we need to adopt some of these best practices, of how do you look at it. I think for us, the challenge was that we learned all these the hard way. We fell down, we faltered, work suffered, but then we picked up. I think today we are at a point where a lot of this can be shared with younger creators. And like I said, that I'm very, very open to working with young minds. In a way, it helps us stay fresh, stay sharp. So that's my point of view.
I agree with you about the training center. My studio also was training people, and they were going out, and my training centers were also training people who were going out. So yes, I agree with you entirely. And I think the gap that you talked about is being now addressed by people by bringing international talent in, and then that talent is actually training the locals also. So I think that gap can be addressed in that. It would be good if we got more international talent to train our top studio heads. So last but not least, Credit, please, could you share your experience?
Yes, so I'll be quick. Actually, so probably I was one of the few examples of reverse brain drain. because I was a graduate from Sheridan College, Canada. I had got a job there in one of the top studios, and for me, what was happening in India was not really an impediment, but a great opportunity. Okay, there was nobody over here except for Ramon, and Ramon, of course, Munjal and Tony and Dilak and a whole lot of bunch of people were together as a conglomerate under RMB Ramon Biographics, and so the idea was that this was perhaps the only valid private studio that was there outside. Of course, the other studio was Films Division, but it was not a commercial studio. So I felt there was a big opportunity to tell stories, and I was very clear that after graduation, I will actually come back and I would want to make a difference here because this is where I can actually make an impact. How has the journey been? Would I swap it for something? Would I do something differently? No, I don't. I don't know. I can't really think of it because the challenges were very different. At that time, when I started my studio, like Munjal said, there were Ramon was himself training the people. So in my studio, I was training people myself. I was taking them from art school, and I was training them in betweening, and I was training them for keyframing, and I was training them for scanning and coloring and everything else. And advertising is how we were surviving, and then we were putting some of the money back into the system. I was not very good at raising money like Ashish, so I was putting some of the money back into the system to try and see if I can start a series and do some long format work. It took a while. Obviously, there were a lot of pains, and one must understand that at that time when I came back, I had no money whatsoever. So I had to actually also begin my life. Just uh, just got married, so I had to settle down. I had to, take some money out from the company for my own personal needs, buy an apartment for myself, buy an office for myself, so on and so forth. So there were a lot of challenges along the way. One of the really good things that happened along the way was that all of us got together and we started the Animation Society of India to empower people. We just wanted to be sure that the struggles that we've been through in terms of looking at references of books or looking at how is this done or how is that done, or you just press a button on the computer and things become things start to animate and everything becomes automatic. So those things, those fallacies, those misconceptions needed to be dispelled. There was a lot of myth about computers coming in and everything becoming really automatic. And I think starting Animation Society of India and being part of it was really a great fruition to my journey. And of course, I ran it for 4 years myself along with others. And then by 2005, and now of course, it's still one of the largest societies in probably the world because we have 5,000 members there. And it's wonderful and it's selfless and it's dedicated and it's got some really good and honest people on board. So I think with the journey, if one has to look at from where we were in 96, there were hardly 8 or 10 animators, and where we are today, I think we have built lakhs of animators now, at least, if not lakhs, then at least 70,000 to a lakh animators today, and really good ones. So we've traveled that journey and we've built the critical mass. And that, unfortunately, the pangs still growth pangs of that one. I was hoping that the channels were a little bit more receptive and were more open to giving us better fees for creating more animation content, Indian animation content, because that is one area that I think most of us failed. We were banking on some of the leading channels which were coming in to actually root for Indian animation more than what they did. Comparatively, I think Rajiv's thing took off in 2008 or something, right? And that would probably be the first bona fide Indian success in terms of commerce, in terms of in terms of actually becoming an IP that is actually got some valuation of worth. Which is in '96. If you put things in retrospect, I came in '96 and 2008, which is 12 years later, something actually happened. By which time I had already moved on to making Tulkur and other things, right? So I was only long format. And of course, I was doing a lot of short films. I mean, I'm doing a lot of short films. So I wouldn't change that. Now, coming to the challenges for the new generation, I think some of the things are very interesting because all the content is available to us on the internet. So if somebody really wants to learn few things, we can just look it up on the internet, or you can just connect with one of us, and I'm sure we're willing to help. And I mentor a lot of people even now by just guiding them to the right websites, or the guiding them to the right places, and say, hey, you know what, this is what you need to look at. We're no longer living in the dark ages, the non-internet dark ages where we started off. So access to information is fantastic. The software was extremely cost prohibitive. The hardware was extremely cost prohibitive. I think one of the incredible things that have happened over the past 4 or 5 years is the caliber of free software of software that is available in the public domain that is free of cost, like Blender, like Krita, like a whole lot of softwares, right? Which GIMP, they are incredible. Like Resolve, they are incredible replacements for something that was extremely expensive and cost prohibitive. So the cost of production of actually owning a machine with a souped up software is actually far lesser now than what it was during our time, because I remember spending 2.5-3 lakhs on a machine, and probably today I can get a good machine for 75,000, which is far ahead of that, and with the softwares that are available in the public domain, which are absolutely free of cost. So the software, the hardware challenges are receding. People can today, if they have the talent and they can go to online tutorials, they can learn a lot of things. They can learn about storytelling also. They can learn about everything else also. So I think today the world has opened up for anybody who has talent. They cannot complain that they do not have the resources or the wherewithal to actually create some excellent stuff. And like Munjal said, all of us are open to ideas of working with young people. So even like I just did 2 films, just finished, which we're going to release on Monday or Tuesday. And the animators are all 23, 24-year olds, you know. And there's some phenomenal job there. I mean, 23, 24 is hardly anything, you know. And they did a phenomenal job with the animation, phenomenal job with the visualization, and all on their own. Which is, I was just a director in the thing, for writer and director. So I think there's incredible opportunity in that area. I don't think we compare both the challenges are very different. If I were to be starting today, of course, I would be going on to an animation mentor or to native puppets and learning the stuff, and then carrying my own machine and trying to do things on my own, write stories, refer to masterclass.com, go there, download some tutorials from some tips on that. There are books available, ebooks available which you can download also. So the world is really compressed in that sense. If somebody who wants to really seek knowledge and who wants to move towards excellence, I think the world is opened up. There is no excuses anymore for not being able to do it if they really have the passion and the determination to do it.
Yeah, thanks a lot. Much. We have already passed about 4 or 5 minutes of our time. I was sure this time would not be enough for all this experience that is there on this panel. But can we have quickly one line from each of you to inspire the new startups, or what they can do, guide them, and then inspire them? One liner, maybe 2 is okay. So we'll start with Munjal.
I would please say, big time is now.
Thanks, Munjal. Marzin, what would you say?
It's all possible. It's happening, and go out and get it.
Thanks a lot. Rajiv?
I think in one line, yes, patience and perseverance, and you can achieve your dream.
Great. Max, what would you like to say? One line to inspire.
Keep working hard, keep learning, and don't expect anything in return.
Okay, thank you. Ashish?
Yeah, I would say keep your creative juices flowing. In fact, don't be afraid that you have not done engineering or medical or law or chartered accountancy. Try your hand with creative industry, and I know you will be a much satisfied person as you cherish your career.
Yeah, Kirit?
The 3 most important elements in any film are story, story, and story. Focus on that. If you get the story right, everything will be fine.
story as always. Great. Thank you very much. I would just like to tell the people attending the seminar that a lot of hard work has been put in and a robust industry has been created by this panel for you. And you've got a fantastic career ahead. There are a lot of positives that have come out from this talk, like the school curriculum is changing to a creative, outdated softwares are going out and new softwares are coming, free softwares are coming. Your access to machines are very good. You got OTT kind of platform, multiple platforms coming to take your content forward. The talent pool is growing at the lower end, not maybe at the higher end, but it's growing at the lower end. So you've got those positives coming out. So storytelling is what you should concentrate on. Conserve your funds, focus on what you need to do so that you can keep your funds for the actual activity that you need to do. And this can make you a success. And I'm sure we all have enjoyed the ride for the last 20 odd years. And I'm sure you guys will really love the journey that's going forward. So thank you very much, Biren and CII for putting this panel together. And I'm sure those who have attended this talk have really enjoyed it. Thank you.